Hello and welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 17. My name is Jameel Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Today we are kicking off part 2 of my series on all of my health hacks, all of the mental and physical hacks and uplifts and little bits and bobs that I have trialed and put into my routine over the last couple of years that have helped me become a prime motherfucking machine. So, strap in. There's a bit more to cover. I can't believe I can talk for almost 2 hours on all of this shit. Just goes to show how much is in my fucking brain all at once. But this is for your benefit, of course. Before we kick off, I was thinking about the election that's actually up this week. I mean, I would love to think that I care about politics, but I don't. But I do, but I don't. I'm probably one of the disenfranchised many that is out there at the moment when it comes to Australian politics. It's an absolute fucking shit fight. It's a bottom of the barrel of the talent. You can't even call it talent, can you? It's just those that are willing to seize power and really commit to whatever bullshit perspective they have relative to their parties. Every election feels like it's increasingly like, guys, hurry the fuck up, get this shit together now. Particularly as someone from the younger generation who can see this iceberg of catastrophe that has been purported to us through the media, but is also quite realistic as well if you've done your research, which I've done some. But, I mean, it seems ridiculous to not think that things like climate change and all that sort of stuff isn't realistic. Like, even if climate change wasn't real, wouldn't the benefit of energy independence and renewable energy just be a fucking good idea to begin with? Like, there was this thing around, I think Schwarzenegger said it. It's like, how do we know? It's funny that I'm quoting Schwarzenegger on the climate, but he's actually a pretty good campaigner about it when he was Californian governor. Man, we should do a deep dive onto Schwarzenegger. He was a bad motherfucker. A bad motherfucker. First of all, amazing bodybuilder, one of the best, champion mindset, can't speak English, becomes an actor, he becomes the governor of California. And now he gets to actually maintain a decent legacy post-politics for what he does. And it seems to be pretty bipartisan. I always figure out, is bipartisan the right way? Or is partisan... Whatever means that he's on... he plays both sides and just stick to one side of the fence. I don't know. It doesn't really make too much sense. It's like on The Simpsons when Dr. Nick goes, inflammable... Or is it flammable? Or inflammable? Something like that. Fuck. I am on a roll here, guys. It's been a stressful day. Lots going on. There are peaks and troughs to when you do so many things in life. And I've had a pretty good streak of peak lately. Starting to feel a little bit of a trough, just a little bit run down. Taking things to that next level in a lot of places with ACN. And work full time. It's just a constant flux. And when the world is on your shoulders, as what I love to do with myself is just pile on a bunch of shit onto my shoulders, biting off more than I can chew. For all the biting off more than I could chew, I could use a better jawline. God bless or God curse my shitty genetics. Thanks, Mum, where no matter how lean I get, I still look like a bulldog at the best of times. Like even now, sitting around here with, not a lot of body fat, I still look like a melting ice cream when I lie down to take a photo, which is really frustrating. How can you be sultry and hit up, some spicy images for Tinder or for the apps, when lying down, you look like a pulled back foreskin. How would I know what a foreskin looks like? I don't even have one. I'm taking a guess here, guys. Please do not send me your foreskins and correct me. Please do not do that. Maybe one, just for the lulz. Who the fucking knows? Anyway, I have been distracted. Politics is fucked. Disenfranchised. I do always vote Greens because they do represent my closest interests socially and politically. I don't know, economically, yes. Some of the things I don't agree with the Greens with. I don't want to go into a welfare state. I think that we certainly need to provide more education services to people and give the ones that want to be helped help. I'm a big proponent of that. With the amount of people that I speak to and give advice to, I sense that they have the will to get better. And the people that have will, you should teach skill. But those that do not have the will and are happy to sit back and blame others for their problems or expect things from the government to get by, mate, ship those cunts off to Manus Island. That's what I really think. I mean, just wipe out people that do not want to lean in and contribute and put everyone else, as to blame as opposed to themselves. And most of those are, again, we talk about the ego here in this pod, deeply hurt egos. You do have to provide that empathy, but maybe necessarily they haven't had the chance to be fully expressed in their insecurities. And instead of experiencing that emotional insecurity within themselves, they project that onto others, which is very, very common. That is often the case when you do get reactivity in your life, when people just give you that blame game. So often it is to deflect a lack of personal accountability, which is a shame, but again, that's the nature of the game. That's how we work here. Doesn't mean that everything is necessarily right. And quite honestly, now that I'm feeling a little bit rougher for wear or worse for wear at the moment, just with fatigue and a lot of things that are piling up, yeah, you can't help but have your worldview skewed a little bit. Who told me this once? I don't know who to attribute this to. Maybe it's Ram Dass. Maybe it's someone else that's spiritual. And he goes, with all this enlightenment and all these ways that you see about the world, and I'm paraphrasing here, but with all the goodness and this feeling of enlightenment and all this knowledge of the universe, how does it make you feel? And the answer was just as miserable as ever. And that's got to resonate with you. Enlightenment or, awakening or, these higher forms of consciousness that we strive for on this podcast and talk about, they're not permanent states. They're definitely not. They are, it's a constant uplift and an iteration north. You're always aiming for higher and better. But there are some days where you're just going to get caught in the fucking ass and it's going to hit you in the ass and just drag you down and you're going to be in the dirt for a little bit and you're going to fall back into some old fucking habits, all right? I'll be honest, guys, between you and me, I had to chalk up yesterday as a bit of a loss. And what I mean by that is, I didn't necessarily go out to achieve all the things that I wanted to. I actually had a go at making this podcast and just bailed on it because I just was not in the mood. I was just fatigued and tired all day. And yeah, things are catching up. And sometimes instead of just pushing and willing your way through, sometimes you've got to take the L. That's important, to have the humility to go, fuck, not today. Not today. I am going to take this loss, have a breather, recollect, reflect, what got me to this point, and then just build back from there. So that's where I'm currently at the moment. Bit of a dip. Things are going to get better. They always do. It's not to say that everything is gone, but, streaks get broken. There is a duality to all things. The tide comes and goes. We're all, in that constant state of flux. And recognizing that is half the battle, too. Is recognizing when you are in that state of lower flux, what you need to do is not necessarily trust your perspective. Don't make, any rash or permanent decisions. Another great quote that comes to mind is don't. I've forgotten it now. But it's like, don't make decisions when you're angry. Don't make promises when you're happy. And the meaning behind that is, during these periods of, emotional extreme, it can be very easy to be caught up in the irrationality of those emotions by committing to something. And that's not necessarily the smartest idea. Rationality is often brought about by having homeostasis and, a stoic element to your process, because you really are trying to minimize the emotionality out of a lot of your decision making day to day, because most of those emotionalities are swinging you away from a rational perspective, a rational capability. So, yeah, take a second to breathe. It's a good reminder for myself to, sit back a little bit, let things flow through. It's a challenge to be constantly pushing in so many directions at once. I mean, I signed up for it. It's not to say that this isn't unexpected to be spinning wheels in certain directions, but that is the way. That is the way forward. You're always going to get something wrong, or something is always going to nip you in the bud. Just to learn to expect it. Don't make it fatalistic, and dust yourself off and try again. I was talking about politics, wasn't I? Yeah, I was. But I don't know. I've stopped caring about politics. All that really, it just, how do you not see how genuinely little I think it affects most people's day-to-day lives? Like, all of the campaigning and the bullshit and the promises, who is keeping that truly accountable? They all just get melted down into gotcha moments. No one expects any politician to really fulfill their promises now when it comes to government. There is just this significant amount of disillusion, and I don't know what's going to fix it for quite some time, because, Albo's gotten a little bit better. He seems to have, he's gotten this fresh daddy vibe. He's, lost a few kilos. He's got a new outfit on. He's got new glasses. And it's like he's just cruising in as the smartest solution to being our next Prime Minister. And I hope he does become it, because the Liberals are just fucking ridiculous at this point. They are just rotten to the core with their far-right neoliberalism. And there really is no space for God in government. Despite the influence of, traditional, and the Catholic Church and religion in all of our influences now, there's really no space for it anymore. It just seems ridiculous that we keep pushing against the will of God when it comes to making decisions about the economy. That doesn't make any fucking sense. With people, like the US potentially repealing Roe versus Wade. Like, what's the point? Why are we regressing here? And I don't think it'll happen, but it just goes to show this weird power struggle that happens between the left and the right, not necessarily because of an outcome that benefits the whole of the people, but just to reinforce their identity politics and their part of the town. And, where's the rationality in Australia for that? Are we giving them a voice? Do we even necessarily care that much? Like, who is going to save us in the brink of us just going, yeah, just whatever, mate. What fucking ever. You can play your power games in government, build more car parks, but for what? For who? Anyway, again, a little bit shitty today, guys. Getting a bit grey here. You know who I do love though? Fucking Bob Catter. God, I love Bob Catter. Fucking far north Queensland's Yosemite Sam. God bless him. Just sitting up there, blowing on pistols. Got that fucking beautiful hat. He's like, what, Lebanese Australian? But fuck, he's the funniest leather handbag that exists in Australia. Just let him have far north Queensland until he dies. Honestly, let him and the shooters and fishers, just let him run amok. And I want some Wild West up in far north Queensland. That just sounds so much fun. Catter Country, I would love to just give him, just secede far north Queensland and just call it Catter Country. And I want to see what acid trip fantasy world he creates where he's got all of the power. That would be so much fun. You would see so many feral animals just being shot up and just, held up like trophies. I think they'd probably be open gun carry laws. That would be fun. And then I just imagine just a whole bunch of mini catters just walking around like it's Red Dead Redemption 2. Everyone's got a 6-shooter at the hip, ready to fucking blast at a moment's notice, but they don't have to use force. They've got that polite Western lilt. I think, man would come back a fair bit. And don't even forget about those 1,000 blossomings blooming. God, I can't wait for the Catter Country Pride Parade. That would be great. I sense there'd be a lot more leather there than other Pride events just because they've killed and, tanned the animals themselves. And fuck me. I guess the other thing is, what does Clive think he's going to... he knows what he's going to achieve. He's just literally keeping the Liberals in power. But I would love to know what his return on investment is on all of this advertising, all of this political guff. Is that really, was he spent like $80 million just to keep the Liberals in power for 4 more years? What's the ROI on that, on his self-interest? Because it's entirely self-interest. He's a mining magnate. And he has got limited time left, on his cardiovascular system, for one thing. My goodness. His pacemaker must be arriving on fucking diesel credits and shit like that. And yeah, to the limited lifespan of what he's doing. Well, I mean, if there's not a limited lifespan to copper and mining, is there? But I guess it's just the lucrative tax benefits that these producers have to export our natural resources to other countries. Fucking ridiculous. Anyway, I don't want to rant about politics because it bores me, so I presume it bores you as well. Vote for whoever the fuck you want, except for United Australia Party. If you are a UAP voter, please let me know. I would love to have you on the podcast, and then we can have it's pretty hard to say, intelligent discourse about the hows and whys. And I would love to see how his policies you think are achievable. And I want to see how you think he would execute upon all of them and what the effects on the economy would be. Because they're just fucking ridiculous, in my opinion. My goodness. And I don't want to go into details of them. Like I said, this is no fun. Let's get into the fun part, shall we? Let's talk about the habits, the rituals, the routines, part 2 of my day. First half, we talked about my morning routine. The bulk of my activity is in my morning routine. I'm just going to pull up my notes now. So we talked about diet. We talked about automating your circadian rhythm using technology. Talked about journaling, prayer, or gratitude more than prayer. meditation, and the science behind diets. High protein diet, 50% plus. Get your gains on, boys. It's good for you. And ladies too. Don't be afraid, ladies, of a high protein diet. Because you just simply lack the testosterone to actually put on massive amounts of muscle. You won't do it. Women are afraid of getting bulky, and they're barely training at Fernwood 3 days a week. Guess what? You won't. You just lack the minerals and the hormones to actually make that happen. So don't stress, ladies. Get your gains on. High protein diet, more fats and carbohydrates. You're also meant to have a little bit of fat on you. All right. I always see ladies that get, a little bit too lean, and that actually fucks up your hormonal systems. You need fat more than men. That's why you have a natural displacement of it more across your body than men. Enjoy it. Appreciate it. You know what the best part of a steak is? The layer of fat on the side, right? That's what brings the flavor. So, don't get too caught up about getting too bulky or too strong. Trust me, if all men and women could get bulky and strong, they would all be, just by hitting a couple of steaks and doing a few more push-ups. But take a look around, folks. That ain't happening. Okay, so let's look at some habits during the day, because diet and morning routine's a big chunk of it. What are the little bits and bobs for mental acuity and self-awareness that I do during the day to help cultivate better self-awareness, better emotional awareness, developing consciousness? And what I mean by that is there's so much of our day that we actually just cruise by unconsciously. And this process of awakening or, self-awareness is actually just putting attention and paying attention to those little parts of your day that you seem to skate over, or aren't necessarily the most engaging, or maybe are just too painful to confront. There are so many parts of our lives that we just sort of glaze over, just merely because we don't want to be confronted by it. Or we get caught up in the emotional dysregulation of how painful that experience is. So, what does that mean? It means that whenever I have peak emotional experiences in my day, I like to take note of them. Before I let too many, frustrating things get to me, I notice that I am angry. I am feeling that rage build up, that frustration build up. And again, that's part of the great Stoic practices that we've talked about. Yes, the Stoic moment and the sacred pause, as the Buddhists call it, between the build up of your reaction to an action that has happened in your external world. Taking note of that, and again, if those things get to you before you react, before you retaliate, retort, you need to take that pause to understand that, there is something here in my emotional state that is causing extremity, that is causing this dysregulation. And doesn't mean I catch myself every time, but even if I do have an outburst or a tirade, at least I know I'm going, fuck, I am out of control here. There's not often many times I'm completely just like blasting out "fuck you" without going, hey, what's going on here, mate? You're taking things a bit far. And again, that's the development of non-reactivity, cultivating self-awareness of extreme emotional parts and different parts of my day. But again, when it comes to expanding that consciousness in your day-to-day life, it's about, when do you notice yourself just skating through a situation? Have you stopped paying attention to when someone is talking? Are you in a meeting that's boring as fuck? Do you catch yourself unconsciously just staring at your phone and you're not really taking information in? You're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then you go, I know this is not good for me. Let me go check another app. This is also shit. Let me check another app. Maybe I should check my emails for the fifth time in 15 minutes. Just because you are so used to that habit and being concerned of what's next, or just wanting to be occupied but not necessarily satisfied by the actions you are taking. And there might not necessarily be an answer to that straight away, but at least you are aware of it, right? We talked about the perceptive process. Number one is attention. Paying attention to these moments in your day where you are disconnecting, where you are disassociating. Take note. Just go, that's interesting. Put it away for later. Put it into that little compartment of your brain where you're starting to take note of these things, right? And we'll talk about why these things are useful later on when we talk about night journaling as well. So noticing my emotional peaks and troughs, that's one of the things I like to do during my day, just, as I'm going about it. Trying to be as non-reactive to, negative situations, practicing that non-reactivity, because I do come up with a lot of problems all of the time, particularly now at the moment, where there is so much uncertainty about what I am doing, both in my personal and professional lives, through work, learning new things, making mistakes along the way, getting frustrated by a lack of guidance or a lack of outcome. And just all the, the minutiae, all the little shit that just happens in your day that can get to you. Just making sure that I can catch myself before anything happens. And again, it doesn't always happen, but just the cumulative practice of catching reactivity and then holding it on for that brief second, and then maybe just that awareness will release the emotion. All right? That's great. That's a lovely outcome. Learning to release and let go of things before they bubble up too hard. One of the great ways that I break state, it's almost it's a somatic movement. So what you do is if you've got something that you cannot let go of in your mind, and you are constantly thinking about that thought. Maybe it's an old trigger, an old wound from the past. Particularly, you do not want to have your mind so focused on these hurt moments or going down these rabbit holes of when you've been hurt or frustrated or whatever it is. I like to visualize that emotion gripped in the palm of my hand or in a closed fist, like I'm holding onto it. And then what I do is I turn my hand over and I let it go. And I go, new moment. All right? This visual and somatic representation of whatever is troubling you can be expelled through physical movement. For example, people who do a lot of breath work or physical release, and when people say shake it off, you are literally manipulating and maneuvering emotional energy from your body and moving it out of where it's currently, sitting. It's like pus, right? You want to drain it out. All of this emotional energy that we keep. I've talked about The Body Keeps the Score on this pod before. It's a great book talking about how we keep trauma in certain parts of our bodies. Again, just applies every single day. If you can break negative state, or if you find yourself caught up just in these painful, repetitive thoughts, letting it go, visualizing it in your hand, providing representation of that emotional situation, and then just letting it go, giving it some release. And does it fix the problem entirely? Not necessarily, but it certainly puts you in a better position than when you began. When you make the conscious choice to not let things affect you, that's power. Because again, a lot of these emotional situations we get ourselves into, that's the monkey mind and the traumatic past and the painful parts of who we are rearing their ugly head, just coming out of hiding wherever they sit inside your body or your mind. And they just come up and they want to attack and, keep you in that unconscious loop of the ego. But if you can consciously learn to recognize it, let it go, and make the choice to move forward, you're on the path to healing. You're on the path to getting better. So those are the great little mental things that I do during the day to keep, reconditioning myself to a more positive perspective, not letting frustrations and the challenges of the day get to me. And again, just building those positive mindset habits, because, negative things are never going to stop coming. So you may as well develop the tenacity required to manage that as you can. So throughout the day, I do that. I have a second coffee around 3 p.m. I am addicted to caffeine. I think I said that in the first ep. I try to have it around 2 to 3 p.m. I have another long black, a couple of sugars, mostly because I needed to do all the extra work that I do at night. I also try to have it between 2 and 3 p.m. because you don't want to have too much caffeine in your system whilst you go to bed. Now, if you go to bed with caffeine in your system, keeps you up, decreases your capability of REM sleep. I'm sure most of us that have listened to this podcast have had some sort of stimulant in their body when they're trying to go to bed. It does not work. Sitting there, trying to get some sleep, completely buzzed off whatever upper you've had, whether it still be a pill or some coke. We've all been there, right? Just gurning your way into outer space. So, caffeine gets me going. But, try to minimize other stimulants besides that. After that period of time, it gives me enough juice to get into the evening. So, speaking of evening, let's talk about the nighttime part of my day. Because if it's 3 p.m., I'm usually doing business stuff, comedy stuff, editing, this podcast even in the evening. So when it comes to the evening, you are again also it's time to down-regulate your circadian rhythm, right? What does that mean? What does that look like? It means you need to replicate less light in your environment, in your indoor environment, because outdoors, there's no light. It's nighttime. But if we are constantly living in, a LED lit, full light environment that does give off a lot of blue light, it's not good for us. Again, that blue light tells the brain, hey, it's still broad daylight. We should be up. We should be perky. We should be doing stuff. So what I do, a bit more automation. I automate my lights at night to turn on around sunset. So, the apps are very good at that information. And then from there, the way I tune my lights is there's a candlelight setting on my lights. So that takes away a lot of the blue light, gives a nice orangey glow. And I don't have full lights on. I probably set to about 30 to 40%. So it's a nice little vibe. It's, a lot more orangey tones. Again, just replicating low light so the brain starts to wind down a little bit. I can't remember if I said this last week, but I have blue blocker lenses in my glasses to avoid blue lights from the screens of my devices, and I have many screens and devices. How many devices do I have right now? Fucking hell. I have 3 phones. I only use one regularly. 2 laptops. Fucking iPads, like 2 iPads. I'm surrounded by devices, right? I am probably going to get one of those gigantic tumors in my right leg over time from all of the electromagnetic frequency and radiation from having my phone in my pocket and in my thumbs and in front of my face for so long. But hey, guess what? I won't be the only one. Very likely you are too. That's something to look forward to, eh? So blue local lenses in my glasses. Take out the blue light from my bedroom lights. A lot of devices nowadays have like nighttime settings that you can use. So, for example, I think it's called night mode or something like that on your iPhone. I'm sure that happens on Android as well. So it again takes out that blue light after a certain period of time. I think it happens around 7 o'clock. You can have a fiddle around, look at accessibility, Google that for all the details around that. If I'm not doing editing work on my laptop and I'm still on my laptop at night, there's an app called Flux, Flux, which is a free application and does the same thing for your laptop and for your desktop too. It takes away the blue light from your screens, so it reduces eye strain, and again, just prepares your eyes to rest and to relax per evening. So again, winding it down, no minimal lights. Some people say just go full candlelight. That's a bit fucking much, right? This isn't the 1700s. Electricity is a good thing. Just got to be a little bit more smarter about it. Some of the more extremists that I see on my social feeds when it comes to these lifestyle tips and when it comes to ancestral nutrition and lifestyle and that sort of crap, they're like, yeah, just live by candlelight at night. What fucking century is this, mate? Anyway, I just think it's a bit much. But if you want to make an impact on social media, you've got to be polarizing in some way or form. But, let's be a little bit more realistic. So, around 9 o'clock, I try to get to bed around 10:30. I try to be asleep by around 10:30. To be honest, I haven't been great at that lately. Again, things have been thrown off because of festival, but I'm trying to rein that back in and just getting a little bit wilder on the weekends now that lockdowns are, they're gone, right? But I think there is that new normal that's settling into everyone. So getting out there, enjoying life a little bit of that bounce back from the lockdowns means that I don't necessarily get a great night's sleep on weekends as I would like. But that's up to me to control. Hey, can't blame anyone else. So the supplements that I take, this is a delicious cocktail of sleep and hormonal supplements, all natural, all very accessible from your local chemist. There's nothing crazy here, nothing hectic. There's no weird Eastern European laboratory I get my supplements from. Wait, hang on, do I? No. Oh, Russian, but that's during the day. Anyway, people always ask what your supplementation is like. It's not that much. It's a lot, but it's not a lot. It's a lot in volume, for reasons I'll explain, but it's not a lot of anything complex. It's all just building blocks. Supplementation should really take up about 5% of your, maybe even less, of your holistic health routine. Supplements are there to provide just the little bits and bobs to help round you out as an individual. Sleep, nutrition are the main two, really, to get you going. And that's what I've by annotating diet and sleep, that has done way more for me than fucking any pre-workout or any fucking, blue pill has ever done for my well-being. So let's go through the subs. So we'll break it down into sleep and then into hormones. So for sleep, I've been a regular taker of magnesium for the last few years. I got that tip off one of my old fitness coaches. Helps with recovery and minimizing cramping. And then magnesium is also very useful for getting you into deeper REM sleep. Don't ask me the science behind it. You don't really give a fuck. You're not going to look that up. Just know that it works. Okay? If you want to Google it, go ahead and Google it. You're going to get a lot of fucking bullshit science that you don't really care about. And neither do I. I just trust the people that know more than me, and I run with it. So magnesium, Now, Dr. Andrew Huberman shifted me shifted me to a particular type of magnesium, magnesium 3 and 8. I don't know what the difference is. I think it penetrates the blood-brain barrier a little bit more efficiently than the other versions of magnesium. But I take 4 capsules of magnesium per night. How many milligrams is that? I don't know. I just know I take 4 caps. It's probably about 400 milligrams of magnesium. One of the things you need to know also is that you can take a lot more supplements than you think than is recommended on the bottle. The reason why I say that, and again, use your fucking discernment here. Don't just go out eating fucking 15 caps of magnesium, because you know what'll happen if you do that? You will blast shit your pants. And, if that's going to happen to you and you're going to give that a shot, please let me know. That's great content. But the reason why I say that you can take a lot more supplements than is recommended on the bottle, and you shouldn't be afraid of that, is because pharmaceuticals are regulated and then also kind of deregulated at the same time. Well, maybe not deregulated, but they are very cautious about the advice they give around dosages, because they have to deal with the general public. And the general public is quite dumb. So when they have to give these, just take 1 or 2 a day, realistically, that isn't going to do too much to you. You do need to take higher doses of certain supplements that are better for you. Magnesium, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D. It's almost impossible to overdose on vitamin D, and it's an essential nutrient that we need in our lives. I think like 60 to 80% of people are vitamin D deficient. We get that from the sun. How often are we in the sun? Not much. During winter, fuck all. Managing my vitamin D has also been one of the things that I've been focusing on now, or will focus coming into winter and darker and colder months, because I think I do get seasonal affective disorder. Just things are a bit more dreary, because it is just cold and fucking shit in Melbourne. So I don't know if that's just the vibe or I have a genuine deficiency in vitamin D. I'm not an outdoors person per se. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I can be indoors all day sometimes, and it doesn't really bother me at all. So keeping an eye on that vitamin D is useful. It's great for managing. Vitamin D is great for your mood. It's a precursor to testosterone. You should really invest in some high quality vitamin D supplements. How do I get my vitamin D? I'm going all over the place with this. Let me wind this back a little bit. So for sleep, I take magnesium 3 and 8. 4 capsules per evening. The capsules will probably be about the same dosage, so you won't have to go too crazy with it. There's not going to be this massive variance in what is inside a capsule. 3 to 4 per night, you'll be fine. What else do I take for sleep? I also take something called theanine. Again, this is something that I got recommended from Dr. Andrew Huberman. Don't ask about the science. I don't know. You can find out. He's got this great article on his website, which is called his Toolkit for Sleep. Highly recommend that. Go and get that if you want to know all the science behind it. But I take 200 milligrams of that. It's just another little small capsule. And I got to say, the theanine gives you some pretty interesting dreams. The magnesium 3 and 8, I notice, I would say, probably, look, it's significant, I would say, the difference that I feel between not having magnesium and having magnesium before I go to bed each night. And when I say significant, I'm not talking like, oh my God, I got an extra 4 hours of sleep. I'm saying more, it's like, I'd say it's about a 15% increase. Like, you notice it. I notice when I haven't had it and I go, fuck, I just feel that little bit more dreary or a little bit slow to get up in the morning. And 15% doesn't sound like much, but it is quite a lot. Some of the things I've noticed when it comes to numbers is that we're so used to thinking that 30, 40, 50%, is standard when it comes to rates of incremental growth. It's actually not. Single digit growth over time compounds significantly. And I keep talking about the power of compounding on this pod, but it's very, very important. If you have double digit growth in business, and you're a mature organization, that's fucking big. When you are an early stage organization, having double digit growth is kind of standard, 30, 40, 50%. If you are a very successful new business, you can grow 100, 200, 300%. And that's the great part, but that's the hyper growth part of who you are as an organization. But 15%, it's significant. It's enough for me to have done it for the last 4 or 5 years religiously. So invest in some good magnesium. If you don't want to go into the hoopla of getting 3 and 8, just go to any Chemist Warehouse and get, just a decent supplement. Which one do I use? I use the Nature's Own one. It's in a green bottle. Chemist Warehouse actually have a special version of it where there's a lot more of it. It's like a special pack. Anyway, if you want exactly what I get from Chemist Warehouse, reach out. I'll send you a photo with all my dosages and all that sort of stuff. But get your mag. It's also good for building testosterone. It's one of the building blocks of it as well. So magnesium and theanine for sleep. For testosterone, here is the recipe for quality test, boys. And everyone's talking about, hey, bruh, how do I get more test? How do I get those fucking gains, bruh? Well, this is the recipe for you. And this is a legitimate recipe. This ain't no bullshit. I was actually diagnosed with low testosterone, which is surprising given how much of a meathead I've become over the last couple of years. And through my coaching with Nikita, I've actually improved my testosterone, almost doubled it, actually, legitimately. Now, what does that mean? It means, quite honestly, the difference between the pre and the post is pre, I had almost zero sex drive. Like over the last couple of years, when I was noticeably lower, I wouldn't even fucking want to jerk it during the week. Now, as any dude that's got some modicum of youth left, that's a fucking interesting sign, right? Like, little to no desire for sex, barely got aroused, barely got horny. And throughout this 2-year period, I thought that was me just, realigning myself. Oh, I'm a different person, getting away from porn and, living a cleaner lifestyle. No, it turns out somehow my test had plummeted over that period of time. And I had to get it back because I was getting concerned because when I was in relationships, I'd be like, yeah, they're pretty, but fuck. Why don't I give a shit? So, this potent recipe, very basic, very achievable and accessible from your local Chemist Warehouse as well. I shouldn't plug Chemist Warehouse so much, given they're not a sponsor, but I think they've done that thing where it's, what's it called? Genericide. Genericide is a marketing term where if a brand is so strong within its category, it takes over and becomes the ubiquitous name within whatever product line it is. So what that means is, for example, Band-Aid, right? Band-Aid dominated bandage industry so much it became the norm. Kleenex, same with tissues, right? So for me, it's also, it's Chemist Warehouse. Similar to Bunnings, right? I just go to Bunnings because it's the leader of its category, and in my own head, it's just like, what's a Mitre 10? What's a Bowens? It's just, I go to Bunnings. That's where all my hardware shit is. So, being a category king, again, I'm divulging and going off tangent here. You want to become a category king when it comes to marketing. If you want to lead and be the front runner of your brand, you need to create an independent category and be the leader of that. And that's how you guarantee success. That's actually kind of what I'm doing with ACN, is that I'm creating the digital comedy market for Australia. And by doing so and going through the arduous effort of creating that, I will become the leader in that category, become the category king, and then that's how I would create an assured dominance in that market. That's the plan anyway. So, back to this recipe. Back to this potent testosterone recipe. Okay? So what you're going to need is you're going to need cod liver oil. You're going to need zinc. You are going to need magnesium. And that's actually it. So cod liver oil, get it in capsules. It's got vitamins A and D, lots of omega-3s, good fats, good fats for your heart. The zinc, zinc is one of the most common minerals that is found in semen and seminal fluid. So having zinc is very good for reproductive health. And then magnesium, very similar to zinc, but has some other components to it, but also very much linked to the reproductive system. So when I wasn't trying to build my testosterone up, I would take 3 cod liver capsules per day. I would still take the same amount of magnesium, and I would take 1 zinc capsule. Now that I'm trying to build it back up or maintain a higher level of testosterone, I'm up to 6 cod liver capsules per day, 2 zinc capsules. And I've kept the magnesium about the same because I didn't really think I needed to improve it because, I haven't had any issues with it. So I take all of these just before I go to bed every night. That takes, all in all, I'm taking around the space of 10 capsules per evening. So it's quite a handful. What I've been getting into the habit of is drinking them down with chamomile tea. So to go back to the sleep part, chamomile tea is great for getting yourself to sleep. There's something in the chamomile that creates, I think it's melatonin or sleep hormones that, again, put your body and your mind into that state to generate rest or to initiate rest. And get yourself some extra quality Z's. So 6 caps cod liver oil, 4 caps magnesium, 2 caps zinc. Take that every day for 3 to 6 months and see what happens. So when I actually had recovered my testosterone, it took me about 3 to 4 months of consistent supplementation before I did tests. So I did a test when I did a test initially to go, hey, what's wrong with me? And then I was like, okay, that's my baseline. What's the improvement? Yeah, almost doubled in that 3 to 4 month period. What are the outcomes? Yeah, man, I feel a lot more emboldened, I'd say aggressive. Yeah, man, I'm starting to feel like a fucking, get that gorilla mind on, So there is that drive, there is that masculine intensity, that will, definitely a lot more hornier, definitely a lot more interested in the opposite sex, just more interested in sex in general. I'm jerking off regularly again. Congratulations. Keep that in your mind bank, in the spank bank. Enjoy that. So there is this significant uplift in my mood, my will, my drive. Just what it means to be a fucking man. And, all the boys that are listening to this podcast, they know what the fuck I'm talking about. When you get into that thug life, to that fucking beefy brain of ours, when you're walking around with your imaginary lat syndrome, fucking flexing out, being a real brah, that happens a lot more than I will care to share in public or express in public. But definitely a lot more drive, a lot more aggression, feeling a lot more primal. Just being a full-on sick cunt. And it's better to be a sick cunt than just a cunt. So those are my evening supplements. Get on them. Honestly, not that expensive, all the supplements. Between the mag, the zinc, and the cod liver oil, you get them all at your chemist of choice. I think they would, all up, they would probably cost less than $60 for quite, maybe about $70, yeah, for quite, 3+ months supply. So a worthwhile investment, guys. Fucking $60 every quarter to fucking really, give yourself a couple of extra mental inches, not physical ones. Fuck, if they gave you physical inches, mate, you'd be on. you'd be fucking on. You'd be a billionaire by now. My goodness. The things men will invest into to make their dick better. Crazy. So supplements, that's my stack. We're heading into to Betty Bye time now. What am I doing? I do my night journaling. So the night journaling, I'm recounting and following up from earlier in the day. So what am I doing? I'm ticking off all the things I wanted to do during the day. Did I achieve them? Those little 1%ers. Did I get them done? Tick, tick, tick. And if I have, fucking write myself down. I've had me a great day, right? Give yourself a little pat in the back. Feel accomplished and enjoy that accomplishment, right? This is one of those little bricks that we are putting into our minds to build the empire of us, right? Knowing that you are putting yourself in the right direction, you're building up that level of, self-belief that you can achieve things in your day, putting some wins together. It's a very good feeling, right? Just a little win for the evening. So I had my great day. So also what I'd like to do is put today I learnt. And today I learnt is just a little reflection. What's something that caught my mind? What's something that stuck with me as a bit of a lesson or as a bit of a narrative in my day that is just, going, I should really take this away from this experience. It could be, sometimes, more often than not, it's honestly just reminders of things that I already know, right? Sometimes it's just to have faith, to be patient. Sometimes it is just a neat little tip or trick that I think is interesting, and I go, hey, that's good to keep in the back of the mind for later. So that's a little reflection on my day, just to go, this is what I've taken from this experience today. And then number 3, I'll probably let this go a little bit because I'm on a good state, but again, I'll say it again. If you are trying to find that purpose, if you are trying to find the path of what empowers you and emboldens you and gives you your authentic pathway to you, is that I like to journal down. I felt most empowered when, and again, taking note of those parts of my day, could be thoughts, could be actions, could be little moments where I felt, felt good, felt rewarded, I felt aligned, I felt just positive, right? Something, when I feel good about something, or when I know I've done something right, I get a little jolt of energy, you get that little fucking bit of oomph. So keeping track of those little things that give me those moments of joy, writing them down, right? Writing them down so you can start to put together the breadcrumbs to something bigger in your life that you should be working towards. Is it a little project that you've been working on that's, got that new step? Or is it just putting yourself, is it your body just rewarding you for taking that little step further in something that you've been curious about for some time? Does it reward you? The body and the spirit will reward you for these little steps of growth. There is so much intuition inside our own selves that we do not take into account, or maybe even consciously, are aware of. We just have this little good feeling, but then we just let it pass. No, pay attention. Pay attention to that. Really observe it. Why did it make you feel good? And write that shit down. Document it, right? You cannot improve what you cannot measure. Another great tip, great little phrase that you should keep in mind. And then, again, journaling's done. Go brush my teeth. What I do is I sleep with tape on my mouth too. And why I do that is because I got a big ass fucking tongue. And that big ass fucking tongue prevents me from closing my mouth while I sleep. So I snore a lot. And people with like sleep apnea or breathing difficulties, so many fucking times have I woken up with just a dry mouth, a dry tongue, my pillow's just covered in drool. It's gross, right? So this is an initiative that I took to improve my sleep hygiene, and was to tape my mouth shut so I could keep my mouth closed and just rely on nasal breathing. Nasal breathing is so important to us. The depth of which I cannot remember at the moment, but there's a great book by James Nestor called Breath. Talks about the benefits of nasal breathing versus mouth breathing. Generally, if you are mouth breathing, your body is in some sort of state of distress and it needs to take in more oxygen through an inefficient pathway. So if you are constantly mouth breathing, that probably means that your body is dysregulated in some way, and to come back into the body and to be more centered through deep breaths, relaxation, and providing your body better oxygen to breathe and to consume. So I tape my mouth. Again, like to recount the day. I've had a great day. Tomorrow's going to be great too. Trying to close out my final thoughts for the evening before I try and get to sleep with something positive, right? Grateful for the day. Grateful for what's coming next. Leaning into the progress of my life and being happy about it. Because again, you're drifting off to sleep, you're going into those subconscious states, those thoughts that you recount throughout your day, they get filtered into your subconscious. So you may as well fill the thoughts that have been in your conscious day to make them positive so they filter into your subconscious mind and fill that with positivity as well. Again, this is about constantly habituating positive endeavors, positive behaviors into the subconscious and the unconscious operating system of the mind. So then by default, your brain will naturally want to aim to think positively and abundantly. And that's one of the greatest mindset shifts and one of the greatest lessons that I've had throughout this practice is recognizing how unconscious we are in day-to-day life, and again, spreading that conscious awareness of what we do every single day, and to begin to use that to benefit ourselves. Because when you benefit yourself and you work on yourself, you're investing in your own perspective of the world, because all you have is your own perspective, right? Internally and externally. So get to fucking work. Keep filling that body and mind with good shit, good thoughts, good food, good rest, and become one big bad motherfucker that's getting it done. All right? So, that's my full day. That's my full stack. I would love to hear and see results. Let me know how you are doing with these sorts of things. If you've got any questions about details, again, reach out. Open book. Always here to help. I'd love to know if you amend it. Why? This is a constant tinkering. This is constant iteration. I've said this many times. It's a constant experiment, seeing what's working, seeing what's not. Would love to have some contrasting beliefs. That's the beauty of science, right? It's okay to be wrong as long as your answer or your proposition is better. There's nothing wrong with that. There is no zero-sum game in the process of getting better. So, that is me, guys and ladies. I don't know why I feel like I have to separate the two. I think it's fine to say guys and it to be a generic term for everyone. The dissertation of language and being so specific about, penis owners, vagina owners. Stop being so ridiculously specific. We're trying to be generalizing. We're trying to save time here. If you're going to do that, then don't say arvo. You know what I mean? If you're going to be so specific about, ensuring that you are detailed about your, what you're trying to say, then apply to the rest of your fucking life too. That probably makes no fucking sense, but it just annoyed me, and I thought I'd get it out here. Hey guys, I've said a lot of zingers on here. That probably wasn't one of them, but that's okay, because we're about to wrap up this pod so I can fucking get some sleep, get a steak in me, and rest the fuck up. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Next week there will be another podcast, of which I do not know yet, but it will be full of either informative or life-changing advice, or absolute bullshit, as is the want of this podcast, right? Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you want to help me out in return, please rate the podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Tell a friend. Share the good news. And then also hit me up on Aussie Comedy Network, Footscray Comedy Club, all that usual good shit that I do in other endeavors. My name is Jameel Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Bingers, and I will see you again next week. Ciao for now.